Oh, really? All right, we're recording. Welcome, Power and Healing members. Oh my gosh, it seems like it's been 1,000 years since we've been waiting to do this, but I'm so excited. So I just wanted to kick it off super quick before Casey takes over that originally we were kind of I was assigning people to, what chakra each person would have. And then it was just kind of like, well, let's talk about it and see if something else makes more sense. And then I just love how the right things, the perfect thing always just kind of works out. So it's even when you have something in your head, that whatever happens ends up being perfect. And I love that Casey ended up with the root, just with this whole family and tribal theme, just with the team, the Have It All team, and just kind of being that leader and all of us being part of a tribe. But what I just kept feeling and reviewing the books and everything that the root chakra symbolizes is just how much I, one, just the past year, what it means to start to feel belonging, true belonging to a tribe. And, just with all the personal development and the friendships that I've made that in such a short period of time feels like a lifetime, stronger friendships than ones that I've had for 20 years. Why am I feedback? Is you still on there? Oh. Did you guys hear feedback too?
Yeah.
I don't know what that, I'm connected with my computer, but anyway, can you turn your volume off? Just click the volume off. Okay, maybe that does something, I don't know. And so anyway, the whole point of all that is that I'm just super grateful that we have this tribe. So that in the course of, meeting all of you and discovering, why is it doing that?
I don't know. It could be a reflection just on somebody's volume or the way it's picking up. Or you know how you Zoom and mute yourself if you're not talking? Try that, see if that helps. So on the bottom left, the microphone.
If you hover toward the bottom of the screen and the microphone. Okay. All right. So just really grateful that as I've met each of you, and everyone's gifts are so different, but everybody that was so interested in coming together and really exploring the chakra system. And I just love how everything just kind of came together and it was the right people. And that's all. So I'm just super excited and I'm grateful that you guys all, said yes and made the commitment to do the study and, because I know life is busy and crazy, but I just think this is going to be all of the discoveries that I know we're all going to have is just going to be super fun.
Bum, bum, bum.
So I'll turn it over to the host.
I think we could all say ditto to what Chris just said, and she really is the one who wanted to, start the study group. So it's just fun to see people that take on, just learning at such a fun level, and I think something that we're all so interested about. And I had some insane aha moments going through this root chakra. And if you think about really what root represents, it is, it's that tribal, it's that security, that belonging, that safety aspect of it. And all of those things which in my conscious mind I have, right? Going back and thinking about all that, but we'll go through some of the just pinpoints of the actual root as far as kind of school type wise. And I'm just going to really just put out there and just be just really raw and vulnerable and share my readings that I had with Miss Valdez.
And I'll just say, or let's set a format that if people have questions, like if you say something and somebody wants to say something, everybody, you just unmute yourself and just like interrupt, and let's just like, because I want it to be, you know, discussion.
Interactive.
Yeah.
Show.
Okay.
Show.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. So, and in our books, if you have the Power versus Healing, not Power versus Healing, that's the study group, but in the Anatomy of the Spirit, where she really breaks it down, and there's the right before the first tribal chakra, where she has on page 96, if you have that one, because it's just a really good like diagram. I know Chris put the diagrams too, so beautiful in the group too. If you print it out, it is kind of small if you're trying to print it out and you keep it all on like one. But this is the stuff that she does have in there too. So physical body support, base of spine, legs, bone, feet, rectum, immune system. And then over there on physical dysfunction, and I went by and I checked everything that I've personally had issues with, but and I invite everybody to do the same. Because thinking about it, it's just so beautiful though how our body does talk to us, and how, you know, listen to your body. I love Chris has that written in her room, like, you know, what is my body telling me? And my body's been telling me a lot lately. Same thing, we can even think, what are our emotions telling us, right? Even if we're looking at, you know, depression, which is here too, but chronic low back pain, sciatica, varicose veins, rectal tumors, cancer, depression, immune related disorders. And I thought, okay, chronic low back pain has been completely debilitating to me. And here recently, sciatica, you know, the shooting pain, definitely. Varicose veins, I was thinking about that as far as with my hemorrhoids, right, being varicose veins. Depression, which I don't know if it was first cause, second cause to the pain not being able to be resolved. And then thinking about all of the even the elements that have been in my body. So I'll kind of go more into that, but I think that these charts are great, but I'm thinking that it does all have to do with physical, family, group safety, security, ability to provide for one's life's necessities. So money is always related in the root chakra too. And if you've seen, oh my gosh, Brain Boost Kick In, you know the movie, the shaman, what's that called?
Healing Luna's Body.
Where he talks about, though, when we've been separated from the mother and we think that there is not enough because money is just, you know, this exchange and this symbolism that we've given it, that it provides for us, when really it's, you know, money's not even a real thing. But the ability to stand up for self, feeling at home, and social and familiar law and order. And I was really trying to think, okay, what are these areas? And I had every single one got checked in a sacral area for me with issues too. So I'm excited for you to share on that, Brittany. So I was like, hot damn!
Well, goddamn.
What the fuck?
Well, and let me, I have
hold on. I'm just going to say it's going to be a very personal speaking next week about all of those. So that's just forewarning.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too, like in the matrix, like that I never knew that there is a connection between the root and the throat. And I have the throat, and I was just looking at that ability to stand up for self. You know, that's kind of where it starts, right? You can't communicate like if you can't even stand up for what you believe in. But I'm interested to see what kind of other connections there are going to be from this too with the other one.
Something else too that I thought was fascinating, which I learned in the Chakra Bible, is that the root chakra and the sacral too, they kind of go together. They're the ones that can absorb all the toxic waste energy from the other chakras. And I'm sure Jen can, if I say anything that's inaccurate, Jen, just like shout it out.
You're wrong.
But I thought that was very interesting to think, okay, well, how many, you know, when I was thinking about just that lower back pain or that safety issue, or, you know, thinking how many people are stuck, have issues in those areas. And so I was over time too. And then I started thinking, okay, what have all my elements been? And so just so maybe we can all relate to, you know, be relatable. But so I have had foot pain heel pain to where it's that my knee locks out to where it doesn't go forward, or like when I'm going upstairs, it just gives out. The hip pain, then the back pain, I had that right-sided ovary issue, where I was going in for everything, the hemorrhoids, all of those things, and all of my issues that I was thinking, my God, they've all been so root-based to Mother Earth. And when I think about, so I was going through and I was doing really trying to think about Daniele, and all these books are basically saying the same thing, right? At the end of the day, like all the books that we've been reading, all these personal development things, all these understandings, they're really saying the same thing. But I loved how she really put it out there to kind of dig deep, and not that Carolyn Neese didn't either, but I think each can kind of get you thinking differently. And so I went and I started thinking, okay, well, as a child, and just certain patterns that have to do, even though if my conscious doesn't feel like, thinking as far as where Michael and I even are in business, that, we are more quote unquote abundant on pay, if you want to look at money, than, we've ever been before. And so I think, well, money can't be the issue. Well, the hell it can't. And I was thinking back to, okay, certain patterns with the money that can apply. And so maybe this, me identifying these patterns can help someone. But I also went through the Heal Your Body book by Louise Hay. And also, like, in the back of that, she has her
that one, sorry, that's on the recommended reading list too, that's in the files.
It's pretty,
I think.
But all the things were pretty much went together. But I thought this to be one of the greatest for me with my sciatica is being hypocritical and fear of money and or future. It was all related to moving forward, fear of the future, money, career, all of it, like all of every single freaking issue. The hemorrhoids, fear of deadlines, anger of the past, afraid to let go, feeling burdened, maybe taking on too much. All of those things. And when I, thinking back as a child, from when I can remember in certain patterns, my mom had severe OCD, right? So we think about, okay, tribal belonging, security, family, to the point where like she did not want to like hug, touch, because we could be dirty. So once we got out of the age where she could control our hygiene, right, which isn't long, I don't think, if you're a mother and you've had kids, and so thinking back to that, like, okay, and my obsession with now being touched and cuddling and love, and now being married to someone who doesn't want to cuddle at all, really, right? Or like it's sleeping at night, so it's like, okay, attracting the same thing as my mother figure, who not really wanting to be that intimate with touch and whatnot. And so it's that, so here it is again, here's another pattern that I've attracted and that I'm going with. So that was kind of like a huge moment and a pattern that I started to, thinking to adolescent stage, feeling, being, redheaded, pale, freckles, made fun of in that aspect, and then going to like private schools, but yet, my parents paying everything that they could to send us to private schools, so not being very well off, never feeling like you had somewhere to fit in, like not being in the popular kids, but then not being like with the nerdy kids, quote unquote. So then thinking, okay, well, gosh, I never really felt maybe like I fit in somewhere. And so pulling those types of emotions out too, to thinking about tribal. I do remember though.
I just want to ask a question. Like, have any of you guys, when you think about your childhood, like, did any of you feel like you did fit in or you did belong? Like you were in the in crowd, like any issues with that? I just, like, as you say that, I'm like, yeah, I didn't feel like I did either, but I was definitely like, quote unquote, like one of the popular kids, but I still didn't feel like I fit in. And I'm like, does any kid? Like, does anyone think like I'm in there?
I don't know that you ever do feel that way as a child. I think as a child, you're trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's part of the growing up in childhood, is figuring out where you do fit in. That's part of the lesson of childhood.
What's the 7-year thing? Like you're in root when you're 0 to 7? Is that what it is?
That's when the root chakra is developing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it would be normal that you wouldn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like overwhelmed.
Yeah, most root chakra ailments or issues will go back to from the time you're in the womb to age 7.
Okay.
Right, Cindy?
I was gonna go along with the fact that I definitely would say I was in like the popular crowd, but I always felt like still out of place, like still insecure about certain things, even though people saw me as being in the in crowd. It just is one of those things that you grow up and you're like, well, is this right? Am I doing this right? And I kind of always felt that way.
I was kind of something that I was working on last week. Something really like came to mind, and it's the fact that I'm an introvert, but I learned to be an extrovert to feel safe because I never wanted to be alone. So that's very like I was really like kind of studying how I connect with other people, and I did feel like I fit in from the outside looking in, but from the inside looking out, I always felt like I had to perform in order to do that. Like I had to be the best at gymnastics. I had to be the best cheerleader. I had to be most popular. I had to be the funniest, the whatever. And I would always try to fit that mold, you know, and when you are a kid and even an adult, if you're me, you tend to beat yourself over the head for not being enough a lot. And that's been my experience.
One of the 7 deadly fears is not being enough. That's one that I was told that I had.
We're going down together soon.
I think everybody can relate to not being enough. Even so, you know, thinking, okay, what patterns like sit here in this chakra? Safety. I remember I was scared to death to sleep by myself. Scared to death somebody was going to come in a window, break in, and take me. My grandmother used to tell me these stories. I mean, you know, be afraid of strangers, be afraid of strangers. That was just ingrained in me that somebody was going to take me away from my family, take me away from my mother. I was never going to see her again. And like, I mean, I couldn't even spend the night, you know, into my teenage year. I mean, it just was like this flip. And then when I turned 14, I don't know, all hell broke loose and started, you know, doing drugs and stuff. But, you know, it was, I mean, just such a fear. And even in the state, so now I'm married. And Michael instills a lot of fear in me for safety. You know, don't leave the house without a gun. The stories of being a police and the messes cleaning up, and you know, all of these things, just safety again. So it's just this whole another pattern as far as with you know, am I safe and feeling safety? Money. I always felt like there was enough, but there was always fear around it, and people wanting to take it. Everybody's going to want a piece of it. As far as, you know, especially with taxes and hearing, you know, my dad talk about it and just all those things. But also, too, with money, enabling. I saw my sister, God bless her, she went before and you know, started a lot of things, but this is a pattern now that has developed in me with money. And, you know, she put a shit ton of money on credit cards, couldn't pay them off. You know, parents, you know, bankruptcy, parents had to pay it off, bail her out. And then always, so I always had to be the responsible one with money. I always had to be the one then that kind of almost picks up the slack or takes care of everything, or whatever you got to do so that you can make the money, because you got to take care of everybody. And then allowing other people to also be codependent upon me for money. You're like, hey. So, but really, and I didn't even realize that I had those types of issues really when I started thinking about, okay, what patterns are and how are they still showing up? But, being the responsible one, taking care of everyone else. Others are maybe not be as blessed as me or capable of thinking, oh, well, you don't have the emotional and the anxiety problems that your sister had. So that was something, well, she's got emotional issues. She has these anxiety issues, so happen to be the strong one, the stoic, the martyr. Thinking about all that, and that is just still the responsibility and the carrying the weight of the world, weight of your team, weight of people, whatever it is that you want, be it if that's my perception, if that's really what's happening, or I'm just creating that. But those are pattern and those are thinking. And I have been and I would love to see y'all's where you feel like you are, be if it's something in your body or whatnot, but being adjacent, I can't think of the words. Well, hold on, let me put the notes. But this is where I have been, and I'm vowing to you guys, I am so fucking done with that. It just doesn't even make any fucking sense. Like, I was like, I cannot believe that this has been allowing me to be. And it was funny how you sent me that picture tonight. So I was like, this is it. Page 48 of Anatomy of the Spirit. And see if you guys can relate to this. Page 47. Page 47 starting. The very last paragraph. The process of curing is passive. That is, the patient is inclined to give his or her authority over to a physician and prescribe treatment instead of actively challenging the illness and reclaiming health. Healing, on the other hand, is an active and internal process that includes investigating one's attitudes, memories, beliefs, desire to release negative patterns that prevents one's full emotional and spiritual recovery. And down, I highlighted on the second paragraph towards the end where it talked about how, I've felt hopeless, I've felt powerless with my back. And thinking, okay, and searching outside for something that can heal me. And towards the bottom, kind of one of the last sentences towards the very bottom, where it talks about holistic, but the last paragraph towards the end, when it says, when a person is passive with an attitude of just do it to me, he does not fully heal. He may recover, but he may never deal fully with the source of his illness.
Wow.
And then it talks about the different types. And if we're thinking about in certain areas of, as we go through this whole, process and energy, and, what we're identifying certain patterns based on certain emotions and certain areas of our energy organs, the acquisitions are this kind of dependent person, so she must acquire power from external environment and through someone else. And not that other people can't be teachers, and we all have to have teachers and people that bring insight to us, like you do, Jen, with your emotional work and your ability to tap in when other people haven't accepted that part yet, to be able to tap into themselves and are like that. That's so powerful. But it's still, you're not going to do it for me. You're not going to do the homework for me. You ain't going to do my affirmations for me.
Well, and even I can tell you what's showing up, but if you don't want to look at it,
Yeah, it's I have been such a passive person, and I'm so freaking grateful for my back right now, because I feel like it has been like one of my greatest teachings. But such a person seeks to acquire power through money, social status, political, social, military, or religious authority. And thinking about, and I'll use like isogenics of, thinking money. Is it ever enough? Do you always need more? Do you always want to do something else? Which there is, right? But I was thinking about that, like when you get to a certain status, right? Or like money or representation, then it's still like, it's more, need more money. Your social status or the ranking in the company, or just the ability that it's like still looking for outside to, and it's like at the end of the day, when you know that that's an internal power, that's like something from within, like that's when it can even show up, just in what we see in the reflection. always looking for like influential people. I need to attract more people of influence and affluence and relationships for, you know, the business and whatnot, even since in network marketing or whatever it is that we're doing, we're all in, you know, entrepreneurship and businesses, you know, with Deep and your Sunshine Artistry, you know, us doing Isogenics and things like that. I mean, we're always looking and looking and looking. But I think that that was perfect. And then it goes into, for someone, if you go then to page 55, it talks about, there's another picture where there's a woman, and she is, it goes into it a little bit before that, where it talks about redirecting power on page 52, where people are then trying to get power, not maybe necessarily from external, but they're so dependent upon another person, looking for that, and she uses the husband and the wife, and so, you know, Julie being so dependent on her husband and like taking that energy source from him, when that's really throwing our whole body off. And then it talks about active power types are different from acquisitioners. They're self-motivated. They believe self-care is priority, and their energy circuits are attached to awareness, strength, and emotional stamina. A self-motivator is able to do whatever is required to maintain the balance of body, mind, and soul. And I have been shitting on myself physically 100% with what I have been putting into my body. And I was even thinking about the amount of water that I drank today when you're thinking about, okay, food, water, you know, your basic necessities to life that your body requires for life giving or life taking, you know, nutrients, energy, and things like that. And just the shit that I've been putting in my body, the shit that I've been eating, the amount of chemicals from my body for my back pain just to try to then get out of pain. I'm sure that shit's getting stagnant everywhere. And, you know, not drinking nearly enough water to flush my body out. And then just, you know, not taking the time with breathing, with just that daily meditate, just everything. I've just been in such a passive mode and in this just woe is me. And it's just, it totally is been expressing itself throughout all my trunks of my legs. And so just really allowing this to be a teacher for all my other chakras. But I would love to know what you guys think about the passive, active, and redirecting.
I love on page 57, the bottom paragraph I have highlighted, it says, healing requires taking action. It is not a passive event.
No, it is not. Seeks to see more.
And if we continue to ignore the body, it will give us something that we can't ignore, like back pain. It'll give us something so extremely powerful that we have to stop and say, okay, I have to take some action to heal this, or it's not going to get any better. So I love that.
Take up your beds and walk. Is that where the guy was paralyzed, Zambino?
What's that?
Where'd you?
Take up your beds and walk. Is that where the guy was in the crowd that was paralyzed? And Jesus said, take up your beds and walk. I just wondered where, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, y'all have to be our Bibles.
I don't know what.
I remember that. Yeah.
But think about the first thing that came up for me when you said that is you think about women who are good in their power, that don't depend on somebody else for it, and they don't give their own power away, like that they are like that they're balanced in that. I think most other women look at them like bitches, right? Like it's like we're supposed to be martyrs and like give and give and give, and like people who don't do that are like, fuck no, I can't do a call today because I'm doing me, like I don't have time for that. And it's like for that, like that's a huge lesson. You've been doing a lot of that lately.
Doing a lot of no lately.
She's been telling me no a lot lately. I'm like, what do you mean no? What do you mean you're too busy? What the fuck? But like I think about, you know, some people in isogenics and like that are like they got their schedules and their ways that they build. And like you can't. I mean, you got to schedule your appointment, and like I just feel like it's natural for the majority of women to be like that is so not nice to be like that, but it really is the most healthy way to be. And I think like modeling, like how many women, maybe even the era, like if your mom is from, you know, whatever, the 50s or 60s, or, you know, like when she was becoming a woman and then started, you know, having kids, like early 70s, it's like I mean, like it was even more so like that culturally, right? That women like did not have their own power and like would draw on the man. And so I don't know, I just think it's interesting that it's like that's a pretty backwards way culturally, like to think about like how we should be acting. And the last just super quick thing was that whole passive and active, like of our healing, like nobody does that. Like you guys we're in like the 0.0000% that actually believes that we can heal our own bodies, which is crazy. It's like going to the doctor for everything, and medicines that are designed to pick up the symptoms of other medicines that are on purpose going to give you those symptoms so that you can go out and buy more medicine to try to get this symptom away. I mean, it's just like, what are we doing? Like with our health, like nobody takes responsibility for their own health.
Andrew and I were just talking about that, where you get a pain medicine, and then once you are on that pain medicine, generally it causes like nausea, and then you have to be on something for that, and it's like one thing after another. His mom just passed away in August, and she was on a ridiculous amount of medication for everything. She passed away of cancer, but like, so there was the chemo pill, but she was so sick from the chemo pill that you had to be on, you know, something else for it and something to sleep. And it was just a continuous thing where it was breaking down her body instead of building it up. And it just deteriorated her after a while.
It really, like, and it's so easy to, and it's not like, I love Western medicine in so many situations and circumstances that I saw. I mean, you think about what emergency medicine can do for people. You know, it's truly incredible, but just this dependency in other areas, and then not incorporating this kind of, even, you know, Carolyn used as she goes on, it's like, you know, take your own power in whatever form of, you know, Western or, you know, medicine that you are doing, but it's like, this has to be a part of it. And under what you were just talking about too, Jim, with learning this symbolic site, you know, and I just made little bullet points, like, first, learn to see your challenges symbolically, like find meaning. Okay, well, what's the meaning in these certain areas in my body? Or being able to look up and release, hey, okay, we'll see these certain things. Okay, we're going to patterns. What are the vibrations of these feelings? You know, power versus force, like what are those vibrations? And then the second part is energy being as much as physical. So the physical is one part, but energy in our chakra system is just as important to heal as the physical part. You know, it's that same thing, like what's my vibration? And I think to really understand, you know, the law of vibration, being just another word for energy, I think that there's a really great video I'll put in the group too about vibration. Just that, you know, self-evaluation, like how much time do we sit and do things like this? And when you find a leak, heal it. And focus only on the essentials that can help you recover power. Why am I losing this power? Why am I losing this power? When I was thinking about the strong base, my base, my root system to carry me around, to support me. I mean, to the point where I'm, you know, being bedridden for days at a time, you know, with my back. And then it's like, why am I losing this power? And it's because it's just not had that self-care, letting certain patterns continue to repeat themselves, even though I've identified a leak, not taking the time to sit there and recover, and just, you know, giving your power away. And does anybody want to share like any of their root emotions?
Sometimes with the root chakra, when people do experience like a lot of power at some point, which I'm sure you've kind of gone through that, Casey, financially, where you're like, okay, I've got all this money, and you feel that power. But even that, feeling that power can be really scary too. To feeling like, oh, well, shit, now I have the whole weight of the world on my shoulders, and I'm responsible to keep this money coming in, or to keep the power. That can be just as debilitating than always seeking the power. You know, once you have it, that can be as painful as not having it.
Can I
yeah.
I'll give it right back to you. You said having the weight of the world on your shoulders. You said having the weight of the world. Like, what I see, like, is that so contradictory to all is one. Like, you're separating. It's almost like praying to God instead of believing that you are of God.
You forget that you are part of a whole. Yeah.
Like you're separate from the world. Like, the world's up here, which is like so not the root chakra of like all, like, it's all, you know what I mean? Like, it's up here.
Exactly. And a lot of times, like, if you have pain in your knee or pain in the ankle, pain in the hips, those joint areas, oftentimes it is the fear of moving forward in life. But if we are part of a whole, and we are that whole oneness, then there is nothing that we can't go through in life that we can't get through. So that's the same thing. It's like we forget, and so we live in this fear of, oh, I'm stuck, I don't dare move forward because I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it all alone. When really, when you can align yourself back with that lesson, I feel like each chakra has a lesson to learn. And that root chakra lesson is that we are all one, and that we're all connected, and that there's nothing in this life that we can't go through, that we won't get through. The biggest thing for the root chakra for me, when I'm trying to align myself back there, is the mantra of nothing and no one has power over me. Because it reminds me that I'm taken care of always. I'm always taken care of. There's nothing to fear. Also, the sacral chakra, it's so close to the root chakra that when you guys were talking about how so many people don't dare to be selfish, that's the biggest lesson with the sacral chakra, is learning how to honor yourself first. And in society, we've been taught that if we honor ourselves before someone else, then we're selfish, or we're a bitch, or we don't care about anybody but ourselves. And so we've been taught that that's wrong. And so we give to everybody around us, and we deplete our own energy. And then that's when our relationships fall apart, and we're left feeling that victim. So that sacral chakra lesson is learning how to honor yourself, learning how to put yourself before everybody else. And when you can do that, then everybody else around you feels that power and that strength that's coming from you, and you have enough to give to everybody around you if you're filling yourself up first.
If you on page 59, he says, like, third paragraph down, kind of mid-sentence, once you set your sight on the lesson rather than the teacher, you have achieved a significant benefit of the symbolic sight. Page 59. Yeah. But it's just, you know, you see that truth is being delivered to you through the challenge. Because I mean, it is like how much more do you learn when there's a challenge, when there's something to overcome, instead of, you know, I mean, that's what we all are here in these physical and this flesh, is to experience challenges. And just like how, you know, Danielle states that, don't worry, it'll show up again and again and again and again until you get it and deal with it. And, you know, emotional, the same thing as physical. I mean, it's just, they're all together. But looking to doing chakra, thinking, and not that I'm experiencing, all those things at once by any means, but just the ailments that I have had in my body. And then even thinking, okay, back pain is such a recurrent theme in my life since I was since I started when I was stripping back, when I was like 18. I mean, that's when I, getting steroid shots in my back. I mean, it's just been this over a decade of even I can recover it, I can heal it, and then it's not, I've not actually released it yet, identified it yet. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to go see this healer and that healer and this guy to flip my uterus and that. And it's like, if I do the work, I can heal myself 100%. And it's like, for your everything, like tribal reasoning, excuse me. I'm so done with that. What are y'all's other emotional blocks or physical in the root? So I don't feel all alone that I'm the one with a fucked up root.
We all have a fucked up root.
No.
I'll be right back.
Talking about being the responsible one and always feeling like you had to be really smart with your money and like people were dependent on you. It made me realize I kind of had a little aha because I was always the opposite as a child. I was the youngest. And so not only did I have my mom, but I had my two older sisters and they were 7 years older than me. So it was like they were, I think like 16 and 8 when I was born. And so they were like my other two mothers all throughout my life. Like I have 3 moms growing up. So everybody just kind of doted over me and gave me everything I wanted. And life was super easy as a kid for me because I really did get whatever I wanted. And so now I don't have that perception with money like I should be. It's hard for me to be responsible with money because I've always just had it handed to me. And so it's like my challenge is going, crap, now I have all of these kids that are dependent on me, but I don't know how to pull it in because I've never had to before. So that it just made me realize, well, maybe that's an imbalance that I have around money to look at. I've never had to be responsible with it. That's probably why I'm not very responsible with it.
Brittany, you want to share?
I think so. Mine doesn't really have a lot to do with the money. It more is like the social and family and that need for approval and like everyone around me. I like to be liked, and I feel like that's my biggest thing. And if someone doesn't like me, I take it extremely personal. Or if someone doesn't like my makeup or my tans or something like that, I take that to an extent of not having that approval. And I was the youngest, and I got everything I wanted. And basically just, I was doted on too. And so like Andrew, my husband, and I go back and forth sometimes, and he has to remind me that he's not my dad and he's not going to do everything for me, which I'm like, well, why not? Because that's how my dad is with my mom. Like they've been together since they were 13. I had seen them, they are still together. And my dad does everything for my mom. My dad did everything for me. My brother is only 2.5 years older than me and did everything for me if I needed anything. Still, like if I'm at home, I'm spoiled. Like my dad or my brother takes all my stuff and carries all my bags and all that kind of stuff. So it's a struggle in my personal relationship with Andrew just because he's like, I'm not going to do everything for you. And I'm so used to, that is my safety. That is what I'm used to. That's my feeling of like at home, like it says. So it's just one of those things of combining both of our relationships and how we grew up and what works best.
Murphy?
I think that, I mean, I've had chronic lower back pain ever since I can remember as well. And one of the things that is really showing up for me, I think, is something I really don't want to share, but sorry, it's depression, and I think it has to do with lack of safety, lack of feeling safe, and I think that's come up for me my whole life. I'm not even say I think. I know that's come up for me my whole life. Just that lack of feeling safe. And whenever I feel like I'm not safe, I just want to hide. And I get depressed. Like, and I was thinking about the passive and the active, and like the pattern for me is that I'm usually not motivated to come from myself. Like, I'm usually not like this person that is like, okay, Cindy, you've got to pull up your bootstraps and do this thing. I'm usually pulled into action because I'm gonna tell you, ain't nobody done shit for me like they done for you, Brittany. And nobody carried my bag. And I'm probably a lot like Casey in the fact that I'm the youngest, but my brother like has spinal meningitis and he's deaf, and you know, and so I've always been that person that felt like I had to take care of him. Even as a child, I can remember taking care of my brother and taking up for my brother, and you know, and making sure everything's okay. And you know, so when I feel like he's not safe, or people I love aren't safe, or I'm not safe, I just kind of go back into that place, and it's the depression that definitely I see a pattern with. I mean, I definitely see a pattern. Now, I said I'm not motivated to like it's like when I'm in that hole, I'm not like, you know, Johnny on the spot, get out of this hole. Like I'm out, you know, just honestly, I'm just padding out. But then what I do is I have to, because nobody carries my bags and nobody pays my bills and nobody does that stuff, I have to step up and do it. And then I finally work myself into that some kind of action, but it's not the right action because it's recurring. It's not the healing action. It's the Band-Aid action. It's just slapping a Band-Aid on it. And then, you know, but for now, and now I feel very unsafe. Like I was listening to Chris in the beginning. I do not feel like I have a tribe right now at all. I feel like I am the lone wolf outside standing there. And you know, that's also victim mentality. I mean, like I'm aware of that, and I know that it takes action, and I appreciate like the whole, as soon as I look at the lesson, my focus will, you know, like, so there are lessons that I need to learn, that I deserve to learn to help heal that really, and not just Band-Aid it over and over. So, but that's what that's my personal stuff right
Um, so I had written down like from Anatomy of the Spirit, where she talks about, you know, it's really about a fear of being abandoned by the group. And I thought about one when I first, and I just want to give kind of a shout out, you know, and a recommendation that if you guys haven't worked with Jen, you deserve to. But when I had my very first session with her, my first two emotions that showed up were, the first was insecurity, which is in the root, and the second was abandonment in the root. But what I thought was interesting when I went back to look at my notes, because I remembered, I'm like, I know I got some shit going on in my root chakra, was that the abandonment, it says that it was, Jen said it was an inherited trapped emotion. And so it was like not even mine. And what I think is super powerful about, people's different gifts is that like we can sit here and try to make logical sense out of what we're reading and think about this lifetime and like what's in our conscious and be like, yeah, I don't know where this thing's coming from. I don't know why I feel abandoned or why I feel so insecure. But, and I am a proponent of pulling cards, which just for me, I feel that communication is very clear. But I had kind of an aha when I pulled a card of a past life of being an orphan, that it was like, oh my God, like if you were left, like nobody to claim you on this, like, of course you would feel like abandoned, by the group, and you had to fend for yourself. And so what I thought about that kind of piggybacked on it was at Casey's retreat in Tennessee, we were just doing that, creative writing exercise, and it was like, write down all the things that you want to release, like that you're just done with, and we're going to throw it in the fire, whatever. And so I was writing some stuff down and, feeling fine about it, like just knowing, okay, yeah, I need to release this. And then I wrote this sentence, I walk through life alone. And I lost it. I mean, like all of a sudden, it was like all of these little emotions had piled up. And when I wrote that sentence down, I like bawled. I could not stop crying. And I'm like, what the hell is that about? Like I walk through life alone. And I look at, I started to underline it on one page about moving around. Right? I have moved so many times in my life, like people joke about it because I just get up and move. Where are you going to go? I've got to move. And the whole, like, I don't know I think it was in Anatomy of Spirit, like, where she talked about like that, like this feeling of belonging. And I'm like, that makes sense to me now, because if I'm used to feeling alone and not part of the, all is one, it's like you're constantly going somewhere else to search for the place where you're going to feel like you're a part of everything, like if it's not this place, it's got to be the next place. So for me, like the idea that it's not all, I think about writing a manual for people and really helping people understand how to identify what, what's the holdup, like what's going on. This whole idea of past lives and subconscious is like gigantic to me, because I just think that we can like all day long try to logically understand like only what we know from what we've lived through in this lifetime. And I just think that is this much of the potential cause, of like where things stem from. So to understand, it's like you're, like, do you have a fear of money? Like, is lower back pain? And she's like, no, I don't. But like going back to like, what is the lesson? Like not focusing on the teacher, but like, what am I supposed to be like learning out of this to truly heal so that this stuff, goes away. But Jen, I can't tell you how many times I've just thought about, what has been uncovered because you have that gift, to be able to tap into that and bring it up. So I would love your feedback on just kind of whatever you think about that.
You're muted.
You're
Hold
muted. Oh.
There you go.
Okay. So I love past life work too. I have had so many ahas for different emotions that I've always felt my whole life and couldn't there was no reason for them. It was like, well, why do I feel that way? I don't have a reason to feel like that. And when you do dive into those past lives, it can be extremely interesting. And it's weird because when you learn about a past life, there's something about it that just resonates for you. So like Chris was saying, you know, being abandoned or being, what did you say happened in the previous life? Were you kidnapped?
Like orphan.
Oh, you were orphaned. That's right. Sorry.
Orphan. It was that, because I'm like, I could have pulled anything, but it was like all of a sudden I'm like,
there's a connection. You feel that something about the story resonates for you, and you just know that it's true. You know that it's something that you've experienced because it feels so familiar to you. It's like it puts the pieces of the puzzle together and it makes sense, even though when you think about it logically, you go, yeah, that's crazy. But there's something that just, it helps you resonate. But anyways, I think that feeling alone and abandonment and all of those, I'm not safe, are very, very common root chakra tribal issues that we all experience in some way or another. I think my biggest root chakra lesson was when I don't know how many of you know the culture of Utah, but most people in Utah are Mormon. And growing up in Mormonism, it never, ever, ever, even as a child, ever made sense to me. And I always felt like an outsider. I always felt like it didn't fit who I was. But I ended up leaving the church when my youngest was a baby. So I think I was like 29 years old when I left the church. And that's a big deal in Utah. When you leave the church, you basically walk away from your friends, your family, everything you've ever known. I remember like it happened overnight where my kids were all of a sudden not allowed to play with certain kids. And people that used to say hi to me in passing at the schools and where, grocery stores or wherever you run into people, they immediately didn't say hi to me. They turned their back and walked the other way and didn't know who I was all of a sudden. And my own family, like my brother wrote me this letter of like, you need to repent and come back or we're done. And we really have been done for the past 13 years so talk about a huge abandonment. I just literally felt completely alone in my world because I was like the only Mormon in Utah, or the only non-Mormon in Utah for a while. Now it's not that way anymore. And I've, created new friends and a new circle and a new tribe. And, but just even this past Thanksgiving, I spent Thanksgiving with my family, and I have never spoken to my family about it. And I was like the first time I ever stood up for myself and kind of let the shit hit the fan, so to speak, at Thanksgiving dinner. And it was interesting. It was really, really interesting. But there was something, it showed up because I was standing up for my son with his cousins. And it ended up being my son said, "Thank you for standing up for me, Mom." And that is what family and tribe and everything's all about. My kids will never, ever, ever feel abandoned from me. And I don't care what religion they join or don't join. But that's been a huge lesson in the root chakra for me, is that, yes, we are all one. Whether you believe in the same belief system as I It doesn't matter. So Cindy, I hope you find your tribe, and I hope you feel like even this circle of friends is your tribe, because it is. And we all have felt that aloneness or that abandonment at times in our lives.
All right, I was saying amen, 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 amen. And 100% what you just said, Cindy, too, girl. You always like that. Crazy. Amen, amen. Yeah, I try, girl. I'll second though what you said, and I know. And Cindy, you worked with Jen, yeah? Yeah. And I'll say, and I'm excited for you, Brittany. You definitely deserve to work with Jen, especially if it's anything emotional at an emotional level. That's her niche. But interesting for me is we've done a couple sessions, Jen, and it's never been a past life for me. It's always in the present. Past life, I've had past life regressions and past life things, and it can make sense and it does resonate with me. But I don't think that there's any type of craving for me with past life like there is for you. It's just not.
I got the deck right here.
It's just not something that that's been brought to my attention that much. Now, do I feel like that? Do I believe in past lives and I've lived many times? I absolutely do. But looking in when on page 123, this was something really massively profound, almost like when you think about your circle and what you just talked about, Jen, on the second paragraph. When tribal justice obstructs our spiritual advancement, which I'm sure is how you felt in the Mormon church, we need to free ourselves from its authority over our individual power of choice. The challenge is one of the most difficult associated with the first chakra, because it often requires a physical separation from our family or from a group of people to which we have become bonded. Thinking, that I feel like that's exactly what you just said, and then going back to that all is one and just the sacrament of baptism and belonging, and how she talks about it, and she has in her diagram back on page 287 where it really has to do all that. But I just,
Casey, what page was that on?
123.
123, yeah. It's the second paragraph down, but that for me, I just underlined it, I highlighted, and it's under justice. And I think, and that even goes back to martyrism, feeling like you have to take care of everyone, feeling like, and so then you're leaving someone or you're leaving a group, but yet you're supposed to be taking care of the others in the group. And then there's all this guilt and shame or guilt associated with it. And I know that is a current emotion that I'm releasing, that when we work together is guilt, and it talked about it's a currently feeling, it's connected to my business. Done wrong or committed an offense. And in a sense, you get to some level, or, you're making residual or whatnot, regardless if you're doing something that's feeling guilty, or almost too, I can say with what you were talking about too, Cindy, I think there's guilt about fit and free. I think I'm experiencing a lot of guilt about that for sure, about B. And all of those things, and then just being in despair from my present health situation, like loss of hope. And if you really think of that, and I think the key thing for all of us, I know everybody talked about Power versus Force was a harder book, but when I read things that he has, it is like that which weakens life energy is to be avoided. Shame, guilt, confusion, fear, hatred, pride, hopelessness, falsehood. All those things are weakening life, are weakening our energy systems inside our chakras. That which uplifts life is to be realized: truth, courage, acceptance, reason, love, beauty, joy, and peace. But then going into all the different levels, and I put in the group the picture of like the chakras, and going up, and Yeah, in the funnel, and just the differences of those. But I think to truly attract into life and get into emotional, like, I mean, just understanding it, where these things vibrate on an energetic level, since, you know, everything is energy and motion, and, you know, just thinking about emotion, energy in motion, like, what are the feelings, and to be able to identify, okay, well, I'm sitting here at guilt and despair, like, what do I think that I'm attracting at certain levels into my life by allowing myself to feel guilty, by allowing despair to be present. The self-abuse, you know, also was something that you identified for me, Jen. That is my sacral, and frustration being my sacral. But just the self, at all levels, I just allowed myself to get drained energetically from self-care. And it's just, you know, you said all levels, you're at self-abuse, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, every single level. You're not honoring yourself. And I think that how many promises have I broken to myself? I'll keep a promise to somebody else, but by golly, something that I tell myself I'm going to do for myself, or self-love, it's like, oh, fuck it, that's out the window. And I just really, like, I'm just breaking those promises to myself. And it's just that self-examination that she talked about, you know, and at the end of each chapter, how Carolyn East talks about that self-examination. And so identifying certain emotions that I'm going through, identifying the vibration that they're at. And he even talks about somebody that raises their vibration from 360 to 360.1, the difference that they have elevated their life from a 0.1 vibration, and at different levels that people get into feeling or truly being like a being of love, just that only 4% actually get to the pass and get into the being of love. But that 3.61, yeah, to 3 just that 0.1. Capable of transforming both one's life and the effects on the entire world at large. Just 0.1. And I just, you know, I just desire to really get at such a level of understanding law, vibration, energy, my chakra systems. And it's like, why would I not be spending more time on my chakras and on my self-care and honoring myself than all this other shit that I'm fucking doing, saying yes to this, saying yes to that, like doing, and it's like, I'm just so done with it. Like, I am just done, because I'm just ready to put myself first. And not be in guilt or not feel guilty for having. And my friend William even said something too. He's like, it's okay to have. It's okay to have and not feel guilty for having. It just, I mean, there's a sense of guilt. Like, it's okay. You don't have to live in that state of feeling guilty. But honor self, being fulfilled. I talked about that in the call today. It's like, if you don't have fulfillment, it's what the fuck success anyway? You can have $10, you can have $1 billion. If you ain't fulfilled, if you're fulfilled at $10 and you're not fulfilled at $1 billion, $10 is worth way fucking more.
I wrote down for myself, like, to create an exercise, to be able to sit down and identify, like, going back to justice, identify situations like where you feel like you've been cast out. So when you think about soul contracts and, like, what are we holding on to? You know, Jen, you gave your example of, you know, the Mormon and, like, feeling like not a part of the group anymore. You know, Cindy, we're talking about, like, a situation like with isogenics, and it's just like the group's being broken up, and, like, now who's in and who's out. Like, I think this is a huge theme. I mean, I thought about myself, I'm like, do I have any of those? And, like, oh my God, like, when I was probably in elementary school, I made a comment when we were all watching Sunday, like, NFL football, in front of my brother and my dad, that I thought Ahmad Rashad was, like, the best looking guy I had ever seen. And he's a very dark skinned Black man. And this was in, like, the early 80s. And so they, like, were like, what? Like, what did you say? Well, I just always have been attracted to Black men. And so literally most from the time I was probably in late elementary school, junior high, all the way up until I mean, I think it is over it. But I literally walked my family through not being racist anymore. And so, and I was,
You're broken up like really bad. It's just like really, really bad. So if y'all need to move or something, I don't know what you got to do, but we were all on mute and you were still.
oh, they all are. Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
she's saying that you had a maybe if you want to move, or I don't know if maybe you're far away.
Can you hear me now or no?
It's way better now. Way better. You sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher there for a minute.
Oh, well, did you hear anything? A little bit. So I was just saying, like, this whole idea that, like, for people to be able to identify what those situations are where you've been cast out, you know, like where you don't feel like you belong anymore because of whatever. I mean, it can be any situation, but mine lasted for years. I mean, I couldn't bring a boyfriend home because he was Black. I couldn't bring him to any holiday gatherings, like you come by yourself or you don't come at all. My uncle lived across the street from us, and he came over when my parents were not home, when I was the only person home, and told me that I was literally like bringing my family down, like this black cloud, that the entire community like thought about my family because of me. Like
You're
that it was
from Wellington, right?
Worcester.
Worcester?
Yeah, she's like, I get it. So Brittany is from a small town in Ohio as well.
Which is funny because my small town is not like that, but I know you go down 83 more and it is like bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to, because I figured I know exactly what you're talking about right there.
But that part of like, when I'm like, well, man, I really stood up for myself then, but you think I didn't like the every step of the way that wasn't a struggle? You know what I'm saying? Like every single step of the way, like every time you talk to your mom when you're in college, she asks you if you're dating somebody else yet. Every time she calls you, well, you dating, who are you dating now? I'm like, the same guy. Like, well, I mean, a week later, who are you dating? I mean, like for years, like there were 2 Black men in my high school that moved into the district that nobody wanted to be friends with. And so I like, you know, befriended them, and I ended up kind of having
friends with you.
Having a I was really, I was friends with them. Actually, I was kind of prudish in high school, but yeah, surprisingly. But yeah, I mean, it was just like, I think about how much of my life that was a major theme of just not being like my family, like not being part of my family. And you think about like, what kind of a toll does that take on your poor baby root chakra? I mean, like, how are you gonna be healthy, you know, in your root when you're dealing with all that shit for freaking 15 years, 15, you know, like 20 years, like of that, of every day feeling like you're not part of the whole. I don't know, I just think that's huge because it seemed like each person was kind of given a different scenario, like not feeling of the all is one. And Carolyn Neese says, I think it's in the recording of the book, is that the number one thing in the quest for consciousness is all is one, like is understanding that, like that's the foundation. That if you can't get past the whole idea of all is one, I know I'm taking a long time, but like I was telling Casey earlier that, you know, she mentions about baptism and, you know, what that literally means of like, you know, now you're we're baptizing you part of the family. And I think about like being in a Christian church, like literally they think it's it's already they. That's a good sign. So it's all about like you're baptized into the Christian family, which is so not all is one, right? It's like this is the Christians are what, like they're in this still that like this bubble of that's what you're being baptized into. And then when she talks about symbolically, what it really means is all of humanity, like all is one. And I thought about, like, in my seminary study, about when God talks, like in the Old Testament, about to like Israel, that like, you are my covenant people, right? And if you're reading the Bible thinking as an us them, right, there's the Jews and there's the Gentiles, and there's the, but it's the Jews were the covenant people. No, it's like all, like, it was a symbol. That's the idea of like the literal meaning, that of that, no, we're the one, like we're the Jews, and so we're the all is one. But if you take it symbolically, it's all of humanity. Like, I'm trying to get a point across, right? Like, I'm not saying literally it's just the Jews. I'm saying like, this is like the foundation of becoming conscious. And I thought that was huge. Like, how many people don't even get that far? And that's like step one.
I loved, because I grew up in a Christian family. I went to a private school all growing up. Even college, I went to a private school. So like, Anatomy of the Spirit was amazing how it tied everything in. And for me, I struggle a lot of times because now I would say I'm definitely still Christian, but I'm as well spiritual. And so I have this pool of what is right and what is like, is this okay for me to believe now? Is this okay for me to start? I truly do feel I'm an empath and I feel things more. And it's just one of those things that I struggle with because I grew up in such a Christian atmosphere, and not with my parents, because I feel like my mom is very spiritual as well, but just because it was ingrained so much in me of this is how it is, you know. And luckily my church was very accepting of everyone. There's definitely branches of Lutheranism that are stricter than others, and mine was like a moderate one. But I struggled in high school because when gay was like, being gay was just a new kind of thing to be talked about, that was kind of the era I was, and it was like, is it okay? Is it not okay? Am I like, and so growing up thinking this was bad and like sex was bad and you can't do it before you get married and all these kind of things, and now reading these books and kind of opening myself up to more and hearing about past lives, like, no, that is not something in the church. Like, no, that's not okay. But at the same time, I struggle with depression, have no idea why. Have always been one of those people that is overly emotional, that I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why I'm sad. I don't know why I fall. I call it falling down my rabbit hole. And I was in my rabbit hole over the weekend, and I literally have to pull myself out. And luckily, if I only worked from home, I would probably struggle with it more. But luckily, like, I have to go to appointments, and so that makes me force out of it when I am in my little rabbit hole, because I can't get out. And like, so hearing about different things of past lives is like, well, is there something that I'm struggling with that I never understood? Why? Because as even a child, my mom would tell you I was over emotional. I would go and like go cry for no reason, and she'd just be like, well, go to your room, like, go cry it out. There's nothing, you know, I can't help you because you don't know what's wrong. And a lot of times, like, even with Andrew, he's like, why are you upset? I have no idea. I'm just upset. And part of it is if I'm around too many people and I absorb all of that, but like, and I struggle with it. But, and going back to just like thinking about past lives and different things and the struggle with Christianity and being spiritual and where I fit, because it is hard. It is hard to like think about the fact that there is no right way. You know, if you look at the Bible and you look at other religious works, they all tie in, and it's just fascinating to me. And I loved how Anatomy of the Spirit kind of involved everything, and it really made me think that like, it is okay that I feel like this. It is okay that I'm still Christian. It is okay that I'm spiritual. And then Soul Contracts there's parts of it that are like bizarre to me, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay with this, but I am okay with this. And it's just like a back and forth. So it's been a really interesting journey with this, and kind of like realizing more that's out there.
I love that. It's growing up in private school too, my whole life, and I think Chris growing up, and Cindy, were you guys pretty religious growing up? Yeah, I think we can all,
Presbyterian.
yeah, so, Catholic, but I just remember it just never read, like, I remember the priest in like religion class, and like, what is this like whack job like talking about? Like, I remember just like thinking that and coming home and just like, Mom, this guy is like saying this, like, for me, I guess it just never, it never really resonated. Jesus, I believed in Jesus, and the story and the crucifixion, and so I didn't feel like we had to like repent or like in sin, or I don't know. I just never felt like I was like living in this sin. So maybe that's just why I pushed it. But in this where it's talking about your vibration, and when you live in states of power, and I think where she's all, even Carolyn Eve, where she is talking about the whole thing, anatomy of the spirit, and it really is, it's just like regaining your power back. And she talks about the principles, that the first principle is biography becomes biology. And what you were just talking about, Brittany, is it could be biography from a past life, from emotions carrying over. You say those are those imprints, those emotional, because our spirit, our energetic body, our spiritual body is not of this physical world. It's eternal, right? So it could have been from centuries ago to, going in. I mean, it's this energy being. So, but those imprints are in there, and it's like this circuit. And I mean, guys, you even think about like our heart. I got an EKG today, just standard for my life insurance. But so I got an EKG, and she was taking blood, and I was thinking about the veins in my body. And, just we have enough veins in our circulatory system to go around the earth 4 times in our body. And just that electrical current, that our heart is literally like electric, like the things that we plug into the walls to get electricity. Like, and I was looking at my EKG and the rhythm of my heart, and I was like thinking about back to my nursing days, and it popping down, but I was going back to that biography becomes biology, and this oneness, this consciousness that we're all in this physical flesh that we've all created together, that this is where our energetic, bodies reside now. But who's to say that, eventually we're not going to look like aliens or, whatnot. But that personal power is necessary for health. Personal power is necessary for health. And I love this quote out of Power versus Force in the very beginning, like the pre-thing. The skillful are not obvious. The skillful are not obvious. They appear simple-minded. Those who know this know the patterns of the absolute. To know the patterns is the subtle power. The subtle power moves all things and has no name. And I think that name is different in whatever it is that you grew up in your tribe, be it if it is God, be it if it is Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, whatever. It moves, the same thing that pulsates our heart. That same energy is the same thing that moves the sky, that moves the stars. But I just think that is just that personal power, and that we alone can heal ourselves is her third principle. We alone can heal ourselves. And to think about that kind of power that we have, and Wayne Dyer, talks so much about that, and Wayne Dyer really studied his work. But he says oneness is central to all of the major religions and spiritual systems as the ultimate reality underlining and within all forms. Then he goes in, it says oneness is central to all of the major religions and spiritual systems as the ultimate reality underlining and within all forms. Because if we're all each other, like, how can we ever lash out against another? How can we ever hurt someone? How can we ever, to have a judgment, to anything? And when you really think about, that's what Christ was, right? Like that ultimate love, Christ consciousness, Christ, whatnot. But you really think about that, and to say love is more powerful than hatred, Truth sets us free. Forgiveness liberates both sides. Forgiveness liberates both sides. There's some forgiving that I'm about to be doing. Unconditional love heals, courage empowers, and the essence of divinity, reality is peace. And I think, when you really think about peace, and that's what we all, strive. But he goes into the level of consciousness, energy fields are calibrated according to their measurable effect. With each progression, rise in the level of consciousness, the frequency or vibration of energy increases. Thus, higher consciousness radiates a beneficial and healing effect on the world. I don't know what this word is. Verifiable in the human muscle response, which stays strong in the presence of love and truth. In contrast, non-true or negative energy field induce a weak muscle response. And that's that whole understanding kinesiology. And
what page are you on?
I'm in the preface. It's like XXXVII, whatever the hell number that is.
36.
Yeah, it's like the preface.
Gotcha.
But
XX.
XVII.
Three X's, VII. Can I piggyback? So today, you guys, I was coming home from the grocery store and there was a bumper sticker on the back of this truck, this pickup truck, and it had the Pledge of Allegiance in quotes. And I started playing around with where you put the emphasis on different words. So just do dumb shit like that. And so we all learn it to say I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, right? So we have these breaks in it. And I started playing around with it. And one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I was like, what does indivisible mean? What? I mean, true, it sounds like separation or whatever, but what does it really mean? So I'm in the car, I Google indivisible definition, and we could do it again. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it basically was you cannot separate it. Now, we think about politically, what's going on in the world. I mean, not just here, the world, right? We stand up and say every day, hand on the heart, indivisible. And this country, I pledge allegiance, and then keep it flowing. So instead of breaking it, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Not to the flag, but to the flag of the United States of America, right? This is the country, this is what we stand for, that's indivisible. And it's just how many ways, not just politically, but racially, and this all is one. How many ways are we divided? Are we divisible? When we stand up every single day and in all these events saying I pledge allegiance to this flag that stands for this indivisibleness. I was just that is kind of, I don't know. That was just huge for me. That it's just we're all there are so many ways that we pick and choose about sides.
It's part of your tribe. It's what you're ingrained in.
Yeah.
And if you feel, and that's where it's when you feel justice is not being served,
Justice, yeah.
for that spiritual consciousness or whatnot, that is when it's not, you have to leave that indoctrination that you've had, that you've believed for so. You can even think about going to church and our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, just that Hail Mary full of grace, having to go through Mary, having to go through having to go through so many things as in Catholic, you can't go directly to God, you have to go through these channels, and it just repeating and repenting, saying that over and over again, saying it, just ask for forgiveness, say this prayer, that, and it's given to you. Recite it, memorize it, learn it. Then you can kind of start applying meaning almost as you get older to what you think that it might mean based on what other people tell you that it means. And the words, or what the words have meanings. But that's throughout. It really, really is.
Are we at 11 o'clock?
I'm sure. So my hope for all is courage. Because courage is at the level of 200 where power really first appears. So you have shame, you have guilt, you have want, you have anger, you have pride, which pride you could say definitely is to do, if you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance, right? That's all pride right there. But courage is when power first to really start to appear for you. And that's at the calibration of 200. That the next goes to being neutral to where it's kind of that. But when I wrote down, you have a healthy root when you're able to be neutral and your energy becomes positive. As you get to the level of being neutral, you're able to get along with. It's safe to be around. You can associate because people aren't interested. You're not interested in conflict or competition or guilt. But that if you had like the power versus force, chapter 4 is my favorite because it takes each feeling and it fear, it says, okay, well, that's at the level of 100, and it really breaks it down. And so that way, when I'm working with Jen and she tells me a feeling that I'm having, I can say, oh, hell.
We all the way down there.
Right
at the bottom.
But it does say this too. I'm going to end it with this. A person may operate on a level in a given area of life and on quite a different level in another area. Overall level of consciousness is the sum total of all various levels.
That's what I was going to talk about, because like I see myself even over time when reading this book, like how I go, like there's, like you look at the funnel, it's like I can see myself up here at times, like, and almost unshakable at those times, just like, firmly grounded and feel ethereal, if that's a word, that's what's coming to me. But like I can see myself there and I can go back to those times, but then like I can also see myself, in the lower vibrations and can see myself right then, so I think the courage is, for me, is like staring the lessons, like staring them down enough to learn more, like what Chris is doing right now, to really just learn more about true healing. And who cares? I mean, like, I don't really care if they're from a past life or not, because I feel like once the lesson is learned, then it's not going to continue to recur. So, if I know the lesson, like if I know that there's this pattern in my life, then get to like the courage and the action of healing so that I can stay more at the top of that tunnel and it's not, that up and down, because, I like roller coasters, but, that's not my life. I like to go to the amusement park and pay for those.
I think what you said though, Brittany, and what you're saying, Cindy, and then knowing me and knowing you too, Cindy, working from home, maybe this is why Chris loves to shop so much, and she gets out and it's like, oh, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I should be getting out a little bit more though, because there is something about being in that same space which is so nice when you create it, but to go out, even if it's just to go out and, my gosh, just sit in the bookstore. Just to get out, and not that I'm having to go out and do anything, go shop, just to go and change my environment, shake it up, get rid of that stagnation, because maybe that stagnation can start to develop in the house, or certain things, or less, or being reminded, or awareness. So I really, I took heed that, because where you're saying like, thank God I don't work outside of my house. And I'm thinking like, fuck, I can think of a couple issues, or because I'm working inside my house probably. So that was,
Kitty? Definitely.
Yeah. This is Suki. I am I need people. And then I get people too much and then I need a break. And so it's funny because one of my really good friends knows this now. It'll hit about 2:00. And if I've been at home all day, I start to go crazy. Like I need to leave my house. I need to see someone. And it's bad because it could be a negative personality that I want to go see or a positive one. And it's just to one extreme or another that I can get that interaction with someone. Like even Casey, just seeing you and sitting with you for like 45 minutes today completely changed my day. It made it better. Like, and
it was boobs.
it was all the boobs.
I was naked all day. Like she comes over naked, dry and naked, just hanging out naked.
But like, and it was so positive and just like being around other people. And I need to remind myself that I need to always, if I do need to be around people, it needs to be around my positive people. Because yesterday I do have a friend that it's a toxic friendship and I continuously try to step away from it, but I get pulled in because we've been friends for so long. And I begin to feel guilty because she'll be like, well, I haven't seen you in a long time. Why haven't I seen you in a long time? And I'm like, because I need like, I can't deal with it. Like, and then I take on her negativeness and it's just too much. And that was yesterday. And so like today was completely opposite because I was around like Casey, I was around you. And then my other friend Candida, that both are so positive and that reaffirming of like building one another up, and it just makes such a difference. Like those vibrations, I really feel vibrations of other people and I'm influenced greatly by them, and maybe that's where I need more grounding within myself so that I don't take it on as much. And and it was nice when reading Soul Contracts because it talks about this like blue bubble, and I was really excited when reading this just for the fact that I need a blue bubble, and I need to remind myself to create a blue bubble because I'm sensitive. And I think, and it's funny how people will be like, you're sensitive, and they'll just not even realize that I'm picking up their feelings. It's just, they think that I'm this person that cries a lot or just is offended easily, and it's generally because I am feeling what they're feeling or giving off, and I take it on. So this blue bubble, I have now been thinking about every time that I go into a group of people. Like I went to a networking event the other day and I'm like, okay, my blue bubble needs to come up and I need to make sure that I'm surrounded, and I just kind of send my vibrations out and not really like bring others in because I was going to be around a large group of people, and it's just sometimes overwhelming if I don't like have a barrier. So that was a really good method of like envisioning that. And I think it was what is her name? Isogenic, short, blonde, Shauna.
Yeah,
Shanna, yeah, she was talking about during the hurricane and they were away and creating a blue bubble, and like their house was one of the only ones that wasn't affected, and just like hearing that and thinking, that's crazy talk. And like, that's still me like pulling from like being so in the church and then spiritual, and it's just like, but now seeing it and kind of with myself trying to do that and see how it's going to work for me. The more I'm around people, the more that I realize that, okay, I need this bubble up, and I'm excited to now put that to work.
Amen, sister. We all need a bubble.
I have a quick question, Cindy. I know you have had your hand up, and we're going to let you talk.
I'm sorry, I was like,
no. I'm just saying,
Me too.
let's just decide, because we're coming kind of close to like the 2-hour mark. when I was like, well, how long should we do this for? I think we're going to be struggling to get everything in 90 minutes with everybody's different backgrounds and experiences and stuff. And I think we proved that to be true. Do we want to kind of go until everybody's kind of done and people fall off when you want, or do we want to change the amount of time and like move it to earlier and allow the call to be longer? Do we want to implement, I mean, I love the discussion and the conversation, so I kind of hate to like implement more structure to keep it to 90 minutes, but like, is anybody, like, how does everybody feel about the time and where we're at and how to handle that? Because I think it's too, she's like, whatever. Well, like for the facilitator, like you
I gotta work in the morning, baby.
you know,
I
you
gotta
are
do
going to have a certain amount of things that you want to get through, right, for that you've taken notes on. And I mean, there's some stuff that have come up that I feel like we're not done with the route. And so I'm like, okay, do we extend, do we keep going? Do we revisit? Do we, like, how do we handle the time and like whether or not we feel like we've exhausted a chakra? I mean, not that we're ever going to exhaust it, but you know, that we're ready to kind of move on.
Maybe starting at the next one. I mean, I think, you know, even if you're starting at 9, I mean, we did start 30 minutes, you know, later tonight.
And one was like 2 hours.
Right. It's so I think, you know, definitely for sure. Either, I mean, I'm fine with 8:30 too. As far as, but if we feel like when you're going to the next one, like if anybody, was there anything left unsaid, or since we talked about it, and then talk more about that, and then if we go, and then if we don't feel like this day, I mean, I just say if we want to talk more about it, or people share more, go on that when we revisit, and then if there's 8 or 9 sessions instead of 7, I think that
Okay.
Because I think sometimes too, after you think about all this, you hear the people's stories and you start processing, but I think, you know, like what you were saying, is really going and identifying those patterns for ourselves so that we can identify, like, you know, what is in this chakra area that I can really get balanced. Just like Carolyn East, like we all have the power to heal ourselves, and you know, just each individual chakra, like what's something that I'm stuck in, so that we can get it turned right. And that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I was raising my hand in agreement. I wasn't like, I didn't need to, like, I'm very much empath as well. So I was like, get your bubble. I understand. You got to protect yourself. I mean, so I was just like, yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Brittany, what do you think about the time and the topics, and like, what's your opinion?
I'm good with, well, we can even start at 8:30. Generally, I'm done on Thursdays by 7:30 for TANs, and I'm good with, you know, if we need to extend it to another week or make it 9 weeks, like I said, you know, that's perfectly fine with me. I'd rather it helps to just thoroughly talk about something. Like next week, you guys, it's going to be an interesting dynamic, because it's like my personal life of like, bleh, all going to be definitely like the main chakra for me. So it'll be interesting.
Emotions, girl. You got the right chakras.
I have so many emotions.
Well, one thing that I'm going to want to pick up on next week, just so everybody knows, and if anybody wants to kind of do any of your own reading or study, I'm not, I think I put these on the book list once I started getting into them, but in the matrix, it's like the second or third thing, like under functions of the chakra. For the root, it says associated with returning karma from previous lives. And so I, you know, like having my love for past lives and like what we carry into other lives. Like if it, like karma is a huge subject that I am super interested in. And I think with this root chakra and like my issues of like abandonment and, you know, insecurity, this might be something that just doesn't have anything to do with this lifetime for me, like, which I really wanted to kind of get into. So I started reading this book. It's called Past Lives, Dreams, and Soul Travel, and kind of talks about what your soul does from lifetime to lifetime with karma. And so let's say I go out in one life and I kill Casey, right? I kill her. And so I'm going to have to deal with that. My soul is going to have to deal with that at some point. So whether it's in the next life or whether it's 2 more from now or whatever, like there is like almost like judgment or like not repentance, but like we got to go make that right, fix it. At least that's kind of what this book is saying. And then I had gotten another one after a Reiki session where our friend Carolyn said, you know, the book will, I'm like, I need to go get some books. And she's like, just go, the books will pick you. I haven't started this one yet, but it's called The Hidden Power of Your Past Lives, Revealing Your Encoded Consciousness. And so I am ready to start this one now, just associating this with the root chakra, like your encoded like my consciousness has been encoded, right, from past life stuff. So I just, because that was on like from the chakra Bible in as one of the primary functions of the root chakra is associated with returning karma.
It talked about too, like with karma. I read that, and it's funny how I just kind of like went right past it. I'm like,
Whatever.
yeah, cool.
That's not one of the points.
That's the resonation. It's not, even though I totally, like I said, believe it, but it was like for those of you who are lucky enough or like blessed enough to believe in past lives. Again, good or bad karma, but all karma is there for us to learn from, and we are fortunate if we believe that we get more than one chance at life. The first and second chakras also act as the energetic recycling bin of the auric field. They change negative emotional energies into power and light and return to earth any toxic waste that other chakras cannot deal with, thus keeping the rainbow purity the aura. So really that, connected to earth. But thinking about you, if you went out and killed me, it was my contract with you at a soul level I needed to be killed, right? Like I needed to be killed. I needed to experience that to learn whatever I needed to learn. So even though like I could be on the bad end, that bad is still could be a lesson for me too. So that whole karmic
Circles of karma.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, that's kind of like how I feel. I feel like the lesson is there, so I don't have to know the details. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. Because like I went through this thing probably about a year ago where I wanted to know about everything when I was exploring this. Like I like looked up this lady and she lives in Pennsylvania and I was ready to buy a plane ticket. Like I wanted to know, but I don't, like now I really want to. It's easy when you do self-examination to see the patterns, but it's the action of the inventory and the understanding and the action of like meditation and all the things that go with that. And that's what I choose my focus to be on right now is like, I'm tired of ripping off Band-Aids. I'm really tired of it. And that's why I'm so grateful for you, Chris, for doing this. Because I think that so many people go through life just ripping off Band-Aids and dealing with the same shit over and over and over. And they're not doing anything wrong. They're trying to do their best, but they're just steady ripping off Band-Aids. And this, to me, when this is said and done, I feel like you're going to have a guidebook for people to live better lives, which is beautiful. That's just beautiful. And I'm excited learning about this. And, it's just funny because like the last couple of days I've kind of been in that hole and I've just been like, I don't even want to think about this. That's how I've been. But this is who I am. And this is what I believe. But like, that's where I've been. I've been in that hole. And that is a freaking pattern. And it's a Band-Aid. And yeah, I'm about to have to go into massive action in February. My planner is like crazy. So I know that's the pull that rips the Band-Aid off. It always is. But I've got to do more if I want true healing. And so I'm really grateful for this group and for you, Chris, for like putting it together, and your genius organization, red personality that I just probably don't get. But thank God for people like you that can do that, for yellows like me.
Oh, grateful too. Okay, well, we don't have to, it just helps for me, like when we talk about like feeling an instant connection with somebody. In this Past Lives, Dreams, and Soul Travel book, he talks about a story, gives an example of this family that there was a whole bunch of brothers and sisters who went through some like tragic, situation together. And so they kept incarnating over and over again with each other, and not necessarily as brothers and sisters, right? But they knew each other. And so for me, it's just cool to kind of be like just embarking, on this personal development journey, that it's like, oh, like now I get why we're all on this call. You know what I mean? It's like, I get why I don't have to be friends with somebody for 20 years, like to feel like they're like, my soul sister. It's like, oh my God. Like, so yeah, it's more at like, for me, like kind of curiosity of like understanding how that karma works. And the ideas that when we have pity for people that, of all different situations, if you see someone who's, handicapped, or somebody, is in a wheelchair or something, like they're working on something, right? Like it's about the lesson that's coming from one life into another, that like, you got to work that out. And like just Danielle McKinnon, like it's gonna showing up over, it's gonna, guess what, it's gonna keep coming back. And so it just gives me a different perspective of like, oh, that's so terrible for them, or people that have to deal with like tragic situations. Isn't that so terrible? And now I'm kind of like, that's just the shit that they haven't dealt with yet. Like they haven't learned that lesson. And my shaman like says, he's always been like, well, who's to say what's good or bad? You see somebody that's homeless. Oh my God, isn't that sad? Like he's learning some kind of lesson that his soul decided, it needs to learn. And so I just, because I saw that in the functions of the root chakra, I just thought it would be fun to just kind of talk about that a little bit more, but we don't have to.
We can talk about that.
I don't want you to feel like I don't ever want you to feel like that's not something that I want the group to talk about. Like, I totally get it. Like, I know that the first time I met my husband, I was totally drawn to his voice, and like my psychic told me, this isn't your first go-around with him. You always recognize him by his voice. And I believe that because I've never, ever been attracted to someone because of their voice. And if you had the picture of the man that like I made my little list, I wasn't him, but I mean, it's this draw. And when she said that, I was like, well, no wonder. That explains a lot. Why didn't somebody tell me that years ago? But, I mean, that totally resonated with me, and a lot of other things have as well that have been presented to me. So I don't want you to feel like I don't want you to feel at all like I'm against that, or I don't want to talk about it or anything like that. It's just not my individual. Like, I'm probably going to learn a whole lot from that, but I really just am ready to dig into the lesson learned.
Brittany, I think too, like you talked about like your friends, and like, like the negative ones and the positive ones. And I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, that's just going to keep getting more severe. Like the dissonance that you're going to feel with certain people, because the more you grow, and learn, the more you're going to connect with different people. And I feel like everybody goes through it. It's like, it just kind of shows where you're at on the ladder, because like when people start to say, God, I'm not getting along with my friends and they all don't understand what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, you're moving up the ladder, like you're like, it's just going to keep getting more. And you just have to decide. I was talking with Karen Darren about this, that you just have to decide at some point when you're ready to let stuff go and keep moving forward, or if you just want to stay where you are, because you have a choice. But it's not like, do you want to live your life for like to hurt people, not hurt people's feelings, or do you want to be like, I want to get on with this shit?
And you can't be guilty.
No.
It's really, I was a part of a networking group, Fateful Young Professionals, and I went to everything to build my business, which was very successful. It worked really, really well. I call this season right now PR season anyways, because it's slow season. It's supposed to be slow season. I've been pretty busy, which is amazing, but it's still PR season. So like, this is where I'm like out and everyone sees me. And last year I did that, and the year before, and I've kind of taken back from that FYP because it's no longer serving me a purpose, and not necessarily like because it's not building me business. That's not it either. It's just the people no longer I feel a connection with. And like, it's funny because one of my friends I saw kind of get away from this group of people and becoming this better person and like evolving themselves, and everyone's like, where's she been? Why hasn't she been around? And she seemed so much happier. And it was just like, well, I still see her. I'm still friends with her. And it's because we still had that connection of like building one another up, those positive energies and wanting to be around each other. And it's like, I saw that and I was like, I'm like, I understand needing to take a step back because you no longer feel those connections with people. And it's funny because I just met the two of you in
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, October, and I feel so close and like shared so much in such a little bit of time, and it doesn't seem like it's only been that short of a time frame. And I was talking to another friend today. I'm like, basically I stepped into her store and started hanging out with her, and I never left. And she's like, wow, that is kind of what happened. You just never left. I'm like, nope, you became a person like mine. Like, I just hold on. Like, when I find someone that I connect with, that's same with my husband. We both kind of were like, yep, this is now forever.
Not getting out of this one. Me too.
Ruby says, look, we all need some attention now.
She says,
Go sit down.
she says, I want you to see how much boxers show up in your life and that you need one.
I know.
It's a pity.
It's
How do you want to close, Miss Facilitator?
I do.
Go.
I think
Go.
I think just getting to that state of healthy root. I think just really the work. Like, what work do we need to do? I mean, this is great. This is part of the work, but I think daily meditation. I know in the Happy Pocket Full of Money, he even talks about if I can give you like one thing to do daily, it's like meditate daily. Wayne Dyer, meditate daily. Meditation can be a 5-minute practice, a 20-minute, a 30-minute practice. But in reality, like thinking about my day and like my piddling or my busyness that I allow myself to be so busy with, meditation is just my commitment to myself and my healing. And that's the commitment that I'm making to myself and honoring that. And so everybody, deserves to have whatever it is for you. I know for me, that's what I'm lacking at this moment, is connecting and picturing my chakras and seeing them and, saying my affirmations in that meditative state. I say my affirmations, wake up, see it around, but I'm not taking that dedicated time. And to do that is selfish to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I am selfish to myself. So that's why it's selfish to the world. So I'd say a pretty, just decide. And if you don't have it right now, just stay, it's not like, but that's, I had already decided that.
When we have crystals to activate it, we have essential oils that help with this chakra, which are cedar wood, patchouli, and myrrh. So I don't know, Brittany, if you want to do anything on that as far as, like looking into that or how you feel about that. Yoga poses. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here when you talk about what work do we need to do? If we feel like we're struggling with, man, my root chakra is like jacked up. It's like, what do you do to balance it? There's some things here. I'm sure there's other things, but truly like the food that you eat. I mean, like when I was in a meditation, and Carolyn was talking about like needing to ground yourself when we were done, because we were doing these attunements and we were all like floating up in the sky. And she's like, now before you get in your car, you need to do some grounding. And I'm like, why? I feel amazing. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like better than I ever had, like, because I'm still up here in the clouds, you know, in my crown. And I went through, when I got in the car, I was like, everyone sounds cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs talking about go eat some potatoes because you need to ground yourself. Like, go eat some food that's like from the ground, you know, to bring yourself. And I'm like, that's silly. Girls, I got in the car. I went to Starbucks. I went through the wrong direction of the drive-through because I was like just thinking about stuff and just floating around. And I was like, what am I doing? And I'm like, that's what she means.
Oh my God, root
Go eat some
food.
potatoes.
Hold on, no, I just had an aha moment. Root food, potatoes, beets are one. Those are all roots. Those are actual
Very
roots.
ground.
Well, cedar wood, you think that oil, it's a tree. Like, you put that on your feet,
Red. That wood color is red.
You put it on your feet.
You can put it on your feet, and that'll help with grounding. That helps with sleeping, like cedarwood and lavender and vetiver. And vetiver, I do believe, is another kind of tree. And you mix those together and you put those on your feet, and it helps with, you know, clarity. It helps with, you know, feeling comfortable, basically. And so that's really interesting. And I never really kind of put all of that together. And, you know, next week, I'm just going to slightly bring this up. We'll talk about the sacrament and sexual different things, and ylang is for that. I have that one, and it's for, you know, when you put that on, it'll kind of give you an aphrodisiac. So it's crazy how all of this stuff can like intermingle.
I'm down for that. I'm excited about that. What you said? What was?
I have to do communion.
What was that one that's not on the list that you said? That's another tree.
I think vetiver. I need to make sure it's a tree. I think it is, but I do use it, and it is for calming. It is for anxiety. It is for sleep. It is a bunch grass. It's like a grass, but it's a plant that.
All right. So we'll be eating oranges and drinking a whole lot of water, since water's the element. And anyway, no, I just wrote down just a quick note based on what Casey said. Like, what is the work, right? Like for the manual, like at the end of each, like we're great. We talk about what the issues are. We learn how to identify them. But then like at the end, like what is the work that we do so that we can actually, Cindy, take the action? It's not, I'm tired of talking about it, taking the Band-Aid off. It's like, what do we need to do? I love it. Like, yeah, there's a lot we could do, you know? Go.
I was in yoga. Gosh, this was
Warrior One. Strong. Warrior One and Eagle are for the root.
Which it's funny because those are like planted. Like you are literally, you're grounded, you're planted, you're in that, you know, zone. I was in yoga. I haven't been sleeping. It's fantastic. No, not at all. But I've been waking up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I went to yoga the other day with Hyatt, and she kept being like, you need to breathe in your poses. You need to breathe. You need to breathe. When I danced growing up, same thing. Why aren't you breathing? If you don't breathe, you're going to pass out. I don't breathe. Like when I'm upset, I don't breathe. When I get hurt, I don't breathe. And Andrew, being a medic, he's like, if you don't breathe, it's going to hurt more. Like your blood's not pumping and all those things. So that's one of those things for me, like in the process of being grounded and like taking action is breathing. Like, and I know that's so, and it's been a topic for the last 3 days with me. Like, it's bizarre because it's such a human nature to be able to breathe. But for me, I don't breathe. Like, I don't take the time to breathe. And that's, Casey, you were saying with meditation. Like, I'm the happiest when I meditate. when I'm depressed, I refuse to meditate. I won't do it. It feels unnatural. And that's when I need it the most. I need to breathe.
It's just dumb.
Yeah, like I'm not doing that. Yeah, and it's like taking that time of like breathing and sitting there and like, and I think part of the being grounded is going outside and walking barefoot and like, which I have to be very careful doing because I'm allergic to fire ants. But like it's all right. Going outside and like taking those moments and like really feeling connected with the earth. So that's something for me that I need to work on is like breathing, being like planting myself down and like taking that time.
And truly unplugging from technology, you know, like really, and I mean, you think about any type of wave, even TV, phone, that, right, like it's just, I mean, unless there's some type of music, I think music can be very therapeutic and guiding and taking you through a very positive vibration, but I mean, all other things, they do carry vibrations and frequencies, and attachment to so many other frequencies. And so really just to shut that technology down, like while you do that meditation, and you think about it, it could all be incorporated into such in no time at all, you know, in 20 minutes in a day. I mean, you could change your entire day and your entire frequency. And it's that discipline.
Not to mention that when you're in nature, the healing is like 800. It has like 800 times the effect or whatever. So like meditating in nature, like, are you kidding me? It is even so much better. But what were you just talking about?
She was talking about grounding. Which
I know for me, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say about like the all is one. Like you are the tree, you are the grass. Like you are. Like, when I was, you know, in Mexico, like in the ocean and the water and whatever, like all is one. It's not just people, everything. So for me, like when I think about earthing and grounding, I'm not just feeling it, but like I'm connecting as like a part. Like I sink in, like melt into the grass and the sand, and like you see people like hugging trees and like feeling the energy, you know, like you are that. Like you might be a person in this lifetime, but you could have been a tree in the last life. It's just different energy. So I was just thought about that when you're talking about earthing and grounding. So I love to like I mean, what's more powerful than nature?
nothing.
I mean, like to be a part of the most power, you know, like that power is like fucking Warrior One, dude. It's like, rah! Like I am the ground.
Nature is perfection. But like what I was thinking about when Brittany was talking was, I remember like I had a huge spiritual awakening, like I guess it's been like 3 years ago now, and I remember I was very much up here for a while, and I did not know anything about like chakras or grounding or any of that stuff. But like I would go out, it was just like natural for me because I was in a like really high state of awareness, and lay in my yard, y'all. And like what Chris was saying, I would just lay in the grass and just like melt into the grass. It's like my body, like I knew I needed that. And I would do that, and like my neighbors were like, what is she doing? And my husband and my son, they were all like, what is she doing? But like I didn't even, it was just like I had to do it because I felt that in balance, you know. And I think too, like when you're at the top of the funnel, you're more aware of those imbalances. Or like when you're on that top half, when you get down in that, like the center part of the funnel, it's like you're almost blinded to stuff. Like even your body stuff, the awareness is just not there. You let yourself, you know, I know for me personally, I can see times where I'm very aware of things in my life, and it's just clear, and it's like there's no direction. Nobody even has to tell me because nature is perfect and I'm nature. And so like I just know to do these things, and if I just go and do them, then it just all kind of balances out in harmony. But when I get down there and resentment, guilt, anger, frustration, all of those lower vibrations, then I can't see in front of my nose. You know, I can't feel the direction from nature or, you know, or God or, you know, any of those higher sources that will kind of lead me through life in the right way. I just am damn me. So that's what I was going to share about grounding. But those are the two things, talking about, you know, things that I can focus on. I have also a tendency to take on too much and then promise myself too much and then beat myself up because I don't do it all. So then I just say, well, screw it. I'm not good enough. Or, you know, I mean, like, not, and that's kind of a very small thing, you know, it doesn't always go like that. But I think subconsciously I just stop because I don't feel like I'm doing it the way it should be done or perfectly. So I think for me, the baby steps that I'm going to take right now, which are really huge, is I'm not engaged in meditation right now. So like I got into a habit a very long time of meditating. But there's a very big difference in just going through the motions and being engaged. So I really want to commit to that engagement of the time that I take. And then I feel like I definitely need some grounding. I need to get out of the house because I've been very stagnant in here the last, you know, week.
The fourth thing that I don't remember what it was, but as far as if you're an active healer.
If you're a what?
Like the active healer, you know how it was like a passive,
right,
and then an active in that spirit of light. She gives like 4 steps, and the 4th step is keep it simple. Like it can be simple, and this fact of meditating and connecting and incorporating your breathing and incorporating, you know, something as simple as just putting your feet, no matter if it's snow, if it's dirt, if it's wet, rain puddle, just going outside, putting your feet in the grass for 30 seconds. I made it that little, and walking outside doing it, taking a deep breath, and then being in an art of meditation. Like that could be where it's not just tons of shit. Maybe being aware of what I mean, not saying, okay, I'm going to have to cook all these things or go buy all this food and then change my entire eating habits. What's this? Okay, now I got to, you know, rub myself every day with oils to, you know, I mean, if you're used to something that's already a habit, like for Brittany, that's a habit, right? I'm sure a habit now, my diffuser is becoming more of a habit, but not, okay, I have to do this every day, like write this whole fucking list of shit I got to do daily. Incorporate those things and having them around and as you think about it, but thinking about what's the one thing? What's the one thing? This little 20-year-old girl, the 21-year-old girl I was telling you about, she was like, have you read the book The One Thing? It's like, what's the one thing that can change my life? And I'm like, yeah, what's one thing? Daily meditation. 100 things.
Breathing. No.
For sure. That is the one thing. That's, I think, even more powerful than meditation. Life, thinking about when I had my most quantum leaps, it was when I was most into breathing. I mean, like, just those, you know, getting all the stagnant air out and then holding it in, feeling my heart do it, feeling that pulsation in that base root chakra. I mean, almost to where you feel like a clit pulsating. You know what I'm saying? But like where you feel a pulsation down there, not like a sexual thing, but you're just attuned to your body and where spots pulsate. You start to feel it more in your heart. You can feel it more in your hands, just those where capillaries are.
Well, when I was in yoga the other day, and a restorative one, which is my favorite because I like slow yoga to think about things when I breathe. But what she was going through was like every time we were in a pose, she'd be like, okay, take your breath and put it to like your hip and like really think about taking that breath and moving it into that position. And that's great with something that like, Casey, you're in pain, like your back hurts kind of like, and take those breaths and move it down to your back and really make it resonate there. Like
pills that I'm right now for it? What do you mean?
Both.
Steroids, the beta, muscle relaxers, and sleeping pills. Like, what are you talking about? Breathing?
He calls me and I'm like, go get some prednisone, girl.
Right.
You gotta go and tell her you need prednisone. That's a nurse calling another nurse. Damn, steroids, woman.
You're so right. Putting your breath there.
Yeah. And that was like, and it really helped when I was even just getting into those poses and like really making sure I felt it and like consciously doing it. And I'm not like, if I'm doing yoga by myself, doesn't happen. When someone's like talking me through it, I can do it. But I'm, like I said, I'm bad at those breaths. And I think that that's
amazing. You're in the process of becoming amazing at those breaths.
I'm in the process of becoming amazing at breathing.
Hell yeah, me too. That's an affirmation. I'm an amazing breather.
I'm gonna breathe into my head before I go to bed tonight. Breathe it all into my head.
I don't think we put the science of breath needs to go on the book list.
That's actually a book.
The Science of Breath. And it ties in, you think about all the systems in your body, it's involuntary. You know, like you can even pass out, your body's going to kick in again. You know, it's just such this, you can do it voluntary, involuntary. Like,
yeah.
Pause it, and then just like what your respiratory system, how long you can live without oxygen, but yet, you know, everything else, you know, food, water, and all those things, but oxygen just that immediate. And but if you think, and those who really study yoga, you know, they talk about that pranayama. So prana being life force, and then you have all your, I don't even know what they're called, but like the shavasnas that you get into, shavasana, man, that's those hand things, you know, to kind of like take you those places too. But it's that pranayama. I mean, I was obsessed with breathing. I mean, you remember that, Cindy? Like, I was obsessed with breathing. You got into it. I mean, we were all just like breathing like crazy people all over the place. This shit works.
I need that. I need to read that book because honestly, you guys, I will cry so hard. Like I said, I'm a crier. I'm a very emotional person, but I'll cry so hard that I won't breathe. Then I'll puke and pass out. And I've been like this since I was 1 year old. Like I would be somewhere and
you were strangled in a past life.
Yeah, like I would be somewhere and I would get hurt and I would have one scream, and this is what my mom would say. I screamed one time, hold my breath, pass out for 3 hours. Like, and all my mom was like, yep, that's just what she does. And my family would freak out about it. No, you have to shake her awake. She's like, no, because then she's going to cry. She already had her one cry. She passed out. She's still breathing. It's not like she's, you know, it's that science behind that. You still are breathing even though you're not like conscious of it. And it's so funny because that's just been my entire life. Like get upset, I cry, I puke, I pass out. I get hurt, I cry, I hold my breath and I go to sleep. Like it's very odd.
You can have books on pranayama if breathing is really an interest to you. The Science of Breath is really great. Like I said, this ties in Eastern and Western, so it's really exciting. As a nurse, I really enjoyed it, anatomy, you know, the anatomy and the physiology behind breathing, and then tying in the spiritual world. And then I've got a lot of books on it. I haven't read a ton on it, but I mean, I just got really into just the art of it. There's breath coaches, breatharians, that people call them, that just live on air for time being. They can just pull nutrients from the air, but yeah,
that's so bizarre.
Pranayama, would you be fascinated to read books on that? And there's different ways to breathe based on if you're wanting to wake up, if you're wanting to go to sleep.
There's, you know, you alternate nostrils, and I got so dizzy. I was doing that. My friend was showing me that, and I got so dizzy I almost passed out. And we were talking about it again today, and she's like, it's probably because you have such a hard time breathing, like doing those different things. You can't handle it right now.
They say every single time that you exhale is you going to God, source, and every time you inhale is bringing source and God into you. And so you think about just what a beautiful communion and exchange, you know, and then you even think about like trees, like life force, like our waste is their food, right? The way that they survive, and then they give us our oxygen. Just that symbiotic, you know, relationship. But to really just breathing, that's gotten me inspired. I don't know why the hell we stopped doing things that were so beneficial for us.
I want to share something really cool about trees. This is really random. But so trees actually, when one starts dying, hey, there's a tree. Trees speak to each other with their roots, and they can be like connected. All like an entire area can all be connected by, with all those roots. And they've discovered that when one starts to die, the other trees kind of suck up their nutrients and start so they still live on basically. And so even though that one is dying, they'll go and nourish the others. So it's really, Andrew made me watch something on it, but it was really interesting. And if I can find it, he'll be able to tell me where it is. But it's literally all of these trees are connected. Everything is connected in the world. It all has these energies, and it's bizarre.
The circle of life.
Baptism.
That baptism, that's it. It's taken. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So do we want to put in the group that we're going to start at 8:30 next
That's
week?
fine with me.
Thursday?
That
What? That's not fun now.
Okay. And then maybe take the first 15-20 minutes if needed. If anybody comes up with anything significant that you just have to get out about the root chakra, some ahas that happen over the next week, and just if there's anything that we feel like we didn't touch upon, especially you, if there was something that you wanted to go through.
I just think everybody record your commitment to yourself, and then we state if we followed through with our work for ourselves, and if we meditate daily, if we breathe daily, the thing that you've decided it for you.
Okay, so, and I'll put that in the group too for John. So do you want us to put it out there, what it is, what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm putting mine's daily meditation. Breathing is in my meditation. And I'm,
okay.
Yes.
So put in the group whatever your thing is, and then at the end of the week, whether or not you did it. And then we will get real orange next week. We're moving on up. Into all those genitalia.
I'm excited about the aphrodisiac.
Right.
Give me some excitement to look forward to.
Lapsy, or what was it called?
Ylang. I'm going to drop some on Andrew. No, he would kill me right now.
Wheeling.
Ylang. I'm going to just put out there now, I think I mentioned it before, but now that we're getting closer, February 16th, I am not able. I'm booked. I have dancing. I'm dancing for my preview. So that's
not on the first.
No, this is just the preview. So I don't know. I'm possibly going to get back in time, but it's one of those things that I'm not sure because there's an auction and everything like that. So
check with
we'll
Jen,
move it.
and we'll move it.
Okay.
And February 23rd, I told you about that. That's the day I fly into Chicago.
What date?
February 23rd, which is my day, do my stuff. And so I wrote the note in the group after I first knew about that because it was already on my book.
All right, we'll try to.
I could do another night. I could do Wednesday night or
whenever we want.
Tuesday night or whatever night.
I'm open. I'm home. I'm open.
So, yeah, me too. So, all right, so we're good. 8:30 February 9th, and then we'll just discuss what we're gonna do on the 16th at that time.
Yeah, so far the night. Yeah.
8:30. Brittany, can I come get a tan at about 11:30 a.m. tomorrow?
Girl, I'm booked tomorrow.
Ben, this is good.
Come on, man. I got a date on Saturday, I think. I gotta get a spray.
She can my house. I can run around naked.
I just found out.
Can you come at 8:30 at night tomorrow?
Yep.
I work at Preston until 8, but then right afterwards I can do it. So 8:15.
4 hours stuff. She You got her. as
No,
well.
tomorrow's Friday. I got time.
Oh, okay.
It's Saturday today. I just got
Yeah.
to get it for Saturday.
And that yin yang, just go ahead and have that together.
Right.
Just have her a package. You should have like the
I need a preview of
you
the sacral
should do
before
like,
Saturday.
You should do like a like romance,
Valentine.
like a tan and like oils.
Yeah, because ylang ylang and grapefruit both are.
Yeah.
Activation of the sacral while you're
Yeah,
there.
like get you could do a sex package or whatever.
That's what I was gonna say. Do a pack. Kind of all the right kind of food, the right kind of.
Huh?
I want the annual membership.
Yeah, you can pick it all up together. Just come get, and just have maybe, I don't know if it was like that, have some roots or some berries or whatever, like in this little thing,
all
and
in
have
one.
oils, and then you tan them up and
And a private soundproof room for when you're all done.
Yeah. It might not need to be for themselves, but so they can get prepared, and that's what they can cook for their romance. Because bitches be getting.
Sometimes you can't wait. You gotta take care of some shit now.
Mr.
Right. That is right.
Love you, ladies. All right, ladies. I'll
Good
see
night,
y'all
y'all.
next
Love y'all.
week.
And I'll see you tomorrow, Chris, at 8:15.
8:15.
Yes, at night.
Yep.
Okay.
Can't stop business.
In the PM.
In the PM.
Isn't that so good?
Um,
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
How cute is that little Brittany?